All right, folks, we are now joined by Massachusetts Senate Minority Leader Bruce Tarr. Thanks for joining us, Bruce.
Well, thank you, Corey and Heather. I've been watching the short and sweet segments for a while now, and I feel a particular honor to be with you, even though we can't be together in this current era. It's great to be with you electronically.
Yeah, it's great. We'll get back to food sometime, but this is really an honor to have you with us today.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the chance to share some thoughts and help get the word out. I would point out for folks that are watching that I'm actually at the State House. My home does not look like the background that you see, and I want to let people know that. I am back and forth to the State House, and we actually have a skeleton staff here, but most of our staff are working from home. But it's important that we keep our office operational and running. So some core staff people are here, and everyone else on our staff is available. So by email and by telephone, we are able to maintain communication and service to the people that we represent.
That's great. And we understand you just came from a meeting with the governor. He had some important executive orders today. Do you want to fill us in?
Sure, Heather. So one thing that's important to remember, and it's a great civics lesson that I try to remind folks whenever I can, is that in Massachusetts, we have tremendous bipartisan collaboration. And actually, every Monday, the entire leadership of the state sits at one table to talk about the issues that we're facing. And so usually those conversations involve the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, the Governor, the Lieutenant Governor, the two chairs of Ways and Means, and the two minority leaders. And so I'm honored to be part of those conversations, again, usually once a week. Today, the conversation was a little bit different because of the circumstances that we're facing, and the call and meeting was held at around noontime. And the reason that I say the circumstances we're facing is because some of us called in and others were actually physically present but socially distanced from each other. And you're right, Heather, the main point of the meeting was to discuss everything we're facing, but particularly the new executive order that the governor issued today. And I want to make the point that things are changing quickly. And so there are two different ways that we can affect the response. One, through the administrative route with the governor issuing executive orders, and there's a large number of those that have already been issued. And the second is through legislation, which takes longer because it has to go through each branch and work its way to the governor's desk and go through the whole process of review and veto and override if that would be necessary. What's really important, and I can't stress this enough, is that we need to rely on accurate information from credible sources. Because for the last couple of weeks, there have been rumors abounding about shutdown orders and lockdowns and a whole host of things which aren't even well defined in the public vernacular. So I want to be clear about this. The governor issued an order today that we were discussing, which restricts the businesses that can stay open to those that provide essential services. It also guides and recommends that if businesses can provide things without having their physical establishment open, they're encouraged to do that. So what the governor did was by no means a lockdown or a shelter in place. Those are other terms that we've heard. It is not those things. What it is an attempt to do is say that in our daily lives, we should be only doing the things that we need to do that are essential and not the other things. So I want to be clear about that. And I want to let people know that we put out that order so people can read it on Facebook and on Twitter. And I believe it's now up on tartalk.com. And it's also available at mass.gov. So the order is the most important news of today. And the other thing that it does is reduce the number of people allowed to be in a gathering from 25 to 10. And the reason that it does that is because of most recent national Center for Disease Control guidance that suggests that's the appropriate number.
So just to be clear, this is not a law. These are orders and advisories, right?
Well, yes, but I'm glad you're asking the question, Heather, because an order does have the force of law and it is enforceable. And so a question that people have been calling our office about is, will this be enforced? And the answer is it will. Now, no one's looking to inflict serious punishment. We're all trying to just do our best to make sure that we control the spread of COVID-19. But people do need to take this seriously. And there's been a certain degree of frustration here at the State House that folks aren't taking the situation seriously enough. People are dying. And in fact, we just got another report that we had another death, so that now we have 9. I'm just looking at my notes. And we have approximately 777 cases now of COVID-19 in Massachusetts. And that is up from 646 yesterday. So that's a 20% increase. So people need to take this seriously. But I also want to just point out quickly, and I know you have another question, but I just want to point out that the governor did not impose a so-called shelter in place kind of a restriction. Those are reserved for imminent threats where we direct folks, wherever you are, stay there and don't move. This is not that. This is guidance and an order, and we're encouraging people, do the things in life that you need to do and not everything that you want to do.
That's really helpful to have that made clear. Thank you very much. Senator, what kind of conversations are you having about the preparedness of our hospitals for this?
It's a great question, Heather. One of the things that the Senate did when we started to get into this situation was stand up a working group. And that working group is divided up amongst about 7 senators. And we each have a subject area that we're trying to take charge of. In my case, the working group is on the supply chain. And in my working group, there are 7 other senators from all over the state. And one of the things that we've been looking at are supplies that hospitals need. So we're all very concerned about things like personal protective equipment. And I think lately we're all becoming familiar with the term PPE. And we have been trying to find that and send information about it to the command center, because there is only one chain of command on this, and it rests with the command center that the governor has stood up. But I can tell you, we have been concerned and continue to be about the availability of PPE. So we're working very hard to be able to find additional sources. In fact, just before we started this interview, I got a call from Gloucester about somebody that had identified another source of masks, of protective masks. Over the last couple of days, we've been dealing with someone in the United Kingdom that has additional masks. So we are trying to find those things, and then the administration is pushing them out to the people that need them based on a priority system that they've developed, and that's very important. So right now, our hospitals are operating. They have the things they need, but the supplies are short. And the most recent thing that we've become concerned about is testing. So there are a number of test kits out there, and I think folks that have watched the president, they've seen him talk about getting more tests to be available. The problem is swabs to take those tests. So we're now engaged in looking for swabs all around the world to make sure that we have enough. So our hospitals are managing. Again, I wish we had more things, but they're able to meet the challenge they have right now. But we are always looking to the next horizon. Are we going to have enough swabs? Are we going to have enough masks? Another thing that we've been looking at are ventilators, where if you read the reports nationally, we don't have enough. And we do have suppliers, for instance, Analog Devices, which has its world headquarters in our Senate district, makes a lot of the componentry for those ventilators. And they are working now around the clock to be able to produce more of them. So the supply chain is critical. We are working on it. And one of the things that we are most concerned about is if we see a surge, it's going to challenge hospital capacity all across the state. So we're working diligently to make sure we identify the supplies that our hospitals need, and we stand up more supplies and more of a supply chain for them.
That is just so great to hear. And I have to praise our state leadership. I think you guys are, I feel very lucky to be in a state with this kind of leadership. So thank you. Is there anything else you think your constituents need to hear right now?
Well, if I could just touch on a couple of really quick things, Heather. As of today, all of our daycare centers closed in Massachusetts, but over the weekend, the Department of Early Education and Care licensed over 500 emergency sites that will be available to take care of the children of our first responders and others that are on the front line of fighting this pandemic. We want their families to be taken care of so they can take care of us. So that is very, very important. Unemployment claims, we're getting a lot of calls into the office, and in the first couple of days of this pandemic, or at least our declaration of a state of emergency in the pandemic, there were over 60,000 unemployment claims. And that's a very large number for Massachusetts. But we want people to know that, again, using the two tools, by executive order, the governor eliminated the requirement of things like a work search, because obviously that's not practical. And we hope you're going to go back to your job. So we don't want you to be out looking for another one. And legislatively, acting very quickly in both the House and the Senate and moving to the governor's desk, we as a legislature passed a law that got rid of the 1-week delay in getting a claim processed. So that's another very, very important thing that we want to talk about. And the last thing I would just mention is there's lots of information out there. You can find it on our Facebook page, Senator Bruce Tarr. You can search us for that. And also Tarr Talk, which is our blog. And also you can find us on Twitter. And we are live streaming a lot of the governor's press conferences so people can watch them. And I would encourage everyone at 1623, if you have the ability to pick up that feed, we can get that out together. And also we have the phone number that you can call as 211 to be able to get information. And the most critical state website is mass.gov. If you go there, you can find all kinds of information. For instance, every day before 4 p.m., and sometimes they've missed this deadline by a little bit, but not much, the Department of Public Health updates on the caseload, not only for the whole state, but for each county. And there's a lot of good information there. When you go to mass.gov, you'll see there's a banner that you click on to go directly to the COVID-19 information. And you can see lots of things like how many people are hospitalized, how many people are in quarantine. This past Sunday, the site added a chart which tells you the age spread of people that are affected by contracting COVID-19. So a lot of good information. And again, I would just stress for folks, we are all working together. We're working together in a bipartisan, collaborative fashion. And this is a very difficult time for all of us, but we should be heartened by what's happening in the society that we live in. People reaching out to help each other, 1623 doing its part. A lot of different people working together to make sure that we stay as safe as we possibly can.
So I want to review, that's such exciting news about this daycare center, because I've been worried about that all along. Will that information be accessible on mass.gov or your site?
It is. It is on mass.gov. I'm not sure that we have it up yet, but we will be putting it up. One of the problems, Heather and Corey, is we're getting so much information, and our communications director, Don Sirianni, is working really hard to parse it out and put it up in digestible pieces as quickly as we can. So sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, but mass.gov always has the information as well.
Well, I'm sure first responders will be interested in that and the corresponding daycare centers. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time today. We know you are working so hard, and we really appreciate it. And hopefully you can give us updates again soon.
I look forward to it. Now that I've learned how to use this technology, which I won't tell you was easy, but now that we know how to do it, we look forward to sharing a few minutes with you both periodically just to give updates. It's a very fluid situation, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing to help us share information about it. And like most people, I think, that will watch this, I look forward to the day of returning to the short and sweet segments when we can talk about brownies as opposed to test kits. But for right now, we need to talk about public health.
Yes, we do. All right. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you both very much.